Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a bit of a shortcut into a classic story, one many of us really know and love.
hmm
But, when you actually peel back the layers, it reveals just an incredible amount of overlooked detail, some really surprising stuff.
Absolutely.
We're diving deep into excerpts from a truly beloved wizarding story. It's packed with hidden identities, uh, shocking betrayals, even some, mind-bending time travel.
Indeed. And our mission today really is to pull out the most important bits of knowledge, the key insights from this very rich material,
Right.
helping you understand what's truly important. Maybe prompt some of those aha moments, about a story you thought you knew completely.
Yeah, get ready to have your ideas about trust, fear, and what friendship really means. Maybe redefined a little.
Profoundly redefined, I'd say.
So our deep dive into this story actually kicks off with this profound sense of isolation. It's Harry Potter's really miserable summer at the Dursleys.
Yeah, he feels completely cut off. Hasn't heard anything from Ron or Hermione for, what, 5 weeks?
5 weeks. And he's stuck there. He's just turned 13, though he doesn't know it right away. And his only, tiny comfort is being allowed to let Hedwig fly at night.
Which is a small improvement over the last summer, but it really just underscores how little control he has.
Totally.
What's fascinating, I think, is how immediately you get that sense of suffocating external control. The Dursleys are still dictating pretty much everything.
And that whole Hogsmeade permission thing.
Exactly. Uncle Vernon's condition tying his permission directly to Harry behaving during Aunt Marge's stay, it just highlights that power dynamic perfectly.
He even sends Hedwig and Errol away to Ron, doesn't he? Forces himself to act like a, quote, real muggle. Hides all his magical stuff.
Yeah, under that loose floorboard, it's kind of a subtle foreshadowing, isn't it? Of the extreme lengths he'll go to later just for a little bit of freedom.
And then the infamous Aunt Marge arrives. She's not just a difficult relative. She's almost this walking embodiment of everything Harry hates about living there.
Oh, absolutely. The description, large, beefy, purple-faced, even has a mustache like Uncle Vernon's. Her presence just immediately sets this tone of relentless criticism, real emotional cruelty towards Harry, pushing him right to the edge.
And that moment with her, the accidental inflation, it's such a key scene, isn't it? It's not just a magical mishap. It feels like his breaking point.
It really is.
What does that accidental magic actually mean for him? What are the immediate consequences he's thinking about?
Well, this act, even though it was unintentional, it's a direct breach of wizarding law, a big one.
Right. Underage magic outside school.
Exactly. So Harry flees, terrified, and his immediate fear is Azkaban, the wizard prison.
Yeah.
And the text really hammers home his terror by reminding us and him of Hagrid's horrific 2-month stay there the year before, and how even someone as brave as Hagrid was just utterly terrified by it.
Yeah.
So Harry understands these are real severe consequences.
His escape, it leads him to that very unique mode of transport, the night bus, where he meets Stan Shunpike and Ern. That whole journey just emphasizes how vulnerable and alone he feels right then, on the run.
Totally exposed.
So Harry arrives at the Leaky Cauldron feeling pretty lost. And for a bit, he's still isolated, isn't he? He even uses Neville Longbottom's name to try and hide from the Ministry.
Yeah, he's lying low. Until finally he reunites with Ron and Hermione, which must have been just a huge relief.
Oh, definitely.
Right.
But what were their immediate reactions when they heard about Aunt Marge?
Well, it's such a classic contrast, isn't it? Ron finds it absolutely hilarious, can barely keep it together.
Of course he does.
While Hermione is, stern, serious, genuinely amazed Harry wasn't expelled on the spot.
Yeah.
Harry, though, he was just terrified of being arrested. And Mr. Weasley, when he talks to Ron later, kind of downplays it, right? Says, Fudge let Harry off because it's you.
Implying his fame helped him out.
Yeah, subtly. It shows how different people see risk,
We also get that little glimpse into their school prep. Ron's got a new wand, which is a huge deal after the old snapped one. And Hermione's schedule is just insane. Arithmancy, care of magical creatures, divination, ancient runes, and Muggle studies.
Ron is totally baffled by Muggle studies. Why would she need that, given her parents?
Right.
And this is also where Crookshanks, Hermione's new cat, shows up. Immediately starts trouble with Ron's rat, Scabbers.
Oh, yeah. Foreshadowing there, too.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But maybe more importantly, it's at the Leaky Cauldron where Harry overhears that really heated argument between Mr. and Mrs. Weasley about him.
That's a big moment.
Huge. Mr. Weasley thinks Harry has a right to know the truth about Sirius Black. Wants to put him on his guard.
While Mrs. Weasley is adamant he's happy not knowing. and shouldn't be made miserable. It's that clash of, like, protective instincts.
Exactly. How best to keep him safe.
So what's the shocking revelation about Sirius Black that comes out of this argument? And what does it tell us about the wizarding world's deepest fears at this point?
Well, they reveal Black escaped Azkaban, which everyone thought was completely impossible.
Right, unheard of.
And they believe he's after Harry. Mr. Weasley mentions the Azkaban guards told Fudge that Black was talking in his sleep, just repeating, "He's at Hogwarts."
Creepy.
Yeah. The Ministry thinks Black is totally deranged and that murdering Harry will somehow bring Voldemort back. Dumbledore knows, but, importantly, he really dislikes having those Azkaban guards, the Dementors, stationed around the school.
So the ultimate secure prison breached by a supposedly deranged killer targeting the one person everyone wants to protect. Terrifying.
It is. But it's interesting how Harry reacts, isn't it? You'd expect just pure panic.
You really would. But
Yeah.
he's surprisingly not scared.
Not in the way you'd think. He actually wholeheartedly agrees with Mrs. Weasley that Dumbledore being at Hogwarts makes it the safest place on Earth. Safer even than Azkaban.
Huh.
His main worry is actually that this whole situation will ruin his chances of visiting Hogsmeade.
Priorities. It speaks to his resilience, I guess, but maybe also a bit of youthful underestimation of the real danger. Yeah. He trusts Dumbledore implicitly.
Completely. Finds comfort in that perceived security.
So, the journey back to Hogwarts on the train introduces a new face. Professor R.J. Lupin, the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. He makes quite an impression. Or maybe not quite the one they expected.
Right. He looks ill, exhausted, his robes are pretty shabby. Ron immediately has doubts about how effective he'll be.
What?
But then the Dementors board the train, and Lupin handles it calmly, effectively. It immediately contradicts that first visual impression, hence there's more to him.
Their first data lesson introduces the Bogart. The thing that turns into your worst fear. Neville's Bogart becoming Snape in his grandmother's clothes is pretty funny.
It is memorable, but what's really interesting is what Lupin does with Harry. Why does he stop Harry from facing it?
Yeah, that was significant.
Absolutely crucial. Lupin deliberately prevents Harry facing the Bogart. He says later he assumed it would turn into Voldemort, and he didn't want to cause, mass panic in the classroom.
Makes sense.
But Harry reveals his greatest fear is actually the Dementors. And this leads Lupin to that really insightful observation, that Harry's greatest fear is fear itself. Wow.
It's a profound insight into Harry's character, isn't it? Highlighting his struggle against despair, the psychological weight of his past, and then Lupin makes a really significant offer. He'll teach Harry how to fight them off, how to cast the Patronus charm.
Which becomes so important. Now, divination, on the other hand, Professor Trelawney, she immediately sees this giant spectral dog in Harry's tea leaves, calls it the worst omen of death.
Instant drama.
How do Hermione and Professor McGonagall react? Two very different people.
Well, Hermione is instantly skeptical, tries to argue it looks more like a donkey.
Classic Hermione.
And Professor McGonagall is even more dismissive. Basically says Trelawney predicts a student's death every single year, and nobody's died yet. Calls divination one of the most imprecise branches of magic. Really shows her lack of patience for what she sees as, well, nonsense.
Yeah, it highlights that clash between, rigid logic and vague predictions in their world.
Definitely.
Meanwhile, Care of Magical Creatures with Hagrid. It starts off disastrously, doesn't it? Sets off a whole chain of events. It really does. Malfoy deliberately provokes Buckbeak, the hippogriff, gets himself injured, though he exaggerates it, of course.
Naturally.
And Hagrid is immediately distraught, terrified he'll be fired. The trio, of course, jump right in to support him.
That support is so important. Malfoy's move isn't just about getting Hagrid in trouble. It sets up the whole legal drama, Buckbeak's trial, that unjust sentence. It just escalates everything for Hagrid.
Absolutely. It's a calculated act with long-reaching consequences.
But as the year goes on, the threat of Sirius Black stops being just a rumor. He gets inside the castle itself. That Halloween incident is pretty chilling.
Very chilling. Black attacks the fat lady's portrait, slashes it viciously because she wouldn't let him into the Gryffindor common room without the password.
Chaos ensues.
Dumbledore immediately locks down the castle, has all the students sleep in the Great Hall for safety, and he makes that firm declaration. No Dementors will cross the castle threshold while he's headmaster.
It's a powerful display of his authority, his protection, but it also shows just how serious the threat has become. Black is in the castle.
The perimeter has been breached.
What are the immediate consequences of that attack, especially for Professor Snape? And it leads to revealing a pretty important magical object, right?
Right. Snape, who's always suspicious of Lupin anyway, partly because of this old-school rivalry.
Where Sirius and James played that really dangerous trick on him.
Exactly, nearly got him killed. Snape tries to convince Dumbledore that Lupin must be helping Black. This tension also leads to Harry accidentally revealing the Marauder's map.
Ah, the map.
Snape eventually confiscates it from Harry, and he actually reads the insults from its creators on the surface: Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs.
Which are Lupin, Pettigrew, Black, and James Potter.
Precisely. Lupin then cleverly takes the map from Snape, saving Harry, but also lectures Harry about the danger of having something like that, leaving it around. Tells him he's not taking Black seriously enough. The map itself is almost a character, revealing secrets.
Yeah, it holds so many keys. Then Harry's Quidditch season starts with just a disaster. That Dementor attack during the match.
Awful. Causes Harry to fall right off his broom, and then the broom flies into the Whomping Willow and gets smashed to bits.
It's a really harrowing moment for him. Shows his vulnerability even doing the thing he loves most.
It does. Dumbledore steps in again, drives off the Dementors, reinforcing his role as protector, but the incident really shakes Harry up.
Shortly after that, for Christmas, Harry gets this mysterious gift, a brand new firebolt. The best broom ever. Ron is obviously thrilled, but that causes quite a stir, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's a classic situation, an amazing gift that comes with a huge dose of suspicion, especially from Hermione.
Right, she immediately thinks.
It could be from Sirius Black, jinxed or cursed. It creates this massive rift between them, Harry and Ron versus Hermione, highlights that growing tension and their different ideas about trust and caution.
What happens with the firebolt next? How does that tension play out?
Well, Professor McGonagall confiscates it, sends it off to be stripped down and checked for jinxes.
Which Harry and Ron are not happy about.
Not at all. It causes a major falling out between them and Hermione for quite a while, though the broom is eventually returned, declared safe. But it's a real moment of friction, shows how fear and suspicion can really strain even the closest friendships.
Amidst all this danger mounting, Professor Lupin starts teaching Harry that crucial defense. Not just against Dementors, but maybe against his own deepest fears, right? Those Patronus lessons.
Yeah, they're challenging. Lupin uses a boggart disguised as a Dementor for practice, and Harry really struggles. He initially keeps hearing his mother's death screams.
Just awful. His worst memory.
It's incredibly raw, that echo of his deepest trauma. Lupin then reveals he knew Harry's father, James, which is news to Harry, and he reassures Harry that struggling isn't weakness, it's actually a sign of his unique past, what he survived. Eventually, Harry manages to produce this indistinct silvery Patronus, learning that his deepest fear isn't Voldemort, it's fear itself.
That idea again, it's profound. That fear of despair, of being overwhelmed, makes his fight against the Dementors so much more, well, poignant.
Very human, yeah.
Okay, let's pivot back to Buckbeak. What happens at his trial? And what are the devastating implications for Hagrid?
The Committee for the Disposal of Dangerous Creatures, which is heavily influenced by Lucius Malfoy,
Of course it is.
convicts Buckbeak. Orders his execution. Hagrid is just devastated. He gives this incredibly vivid, chilling description of Azkaban, how you lose your mind, only remember the worst things, how the Dementors don't care if you're innocent.
He's terrified Buckbeak will suffer that, even before the execution. For Hagrid, who loves his creatures so much, it's just an unbearable injustice.
Truly is.
How does Hermione, who's usually so calm and logical, react when Malfoy is taunting them about Buckbeak's upcoming execution?
This is such a powerful moment for her character. She completely loses it. She slaps Malfoy right across the face,
Go, Hermione.
fiercely defending Hagrid. It's a moment where her loyalty and her empathy just completely override her usual rule-following nature. Shows how sometimes emotional conviction is just stronger than logic, even for someone like her.
It really does. Okay, now we're getting to the real core of the mystery, the climax in the Shrieking Shack. It starts with Harry sneaking into Hogsmeade again, right? Using the map.
Yes, uses the map and the secret passage to Honeydukes. He nearly gets caught by Malfoy, who actually sees his head floating for a second under the invisibility cloak.
Close call.
Leads to Snape confronting Harry back at the castle, finding the Marauder's map, and the map hilariously insults Snape directly.
From Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs.
Professor Lupin arrives just in the nick of time, saves Harry from Snape, but yeah, the stakes are incredibly high now. Everyone's closing in.
So as sunset approaches on the day of Buckbeak's supposed execution, Harry, Ron, and Hermione go down to Hagrid's hut under the cloak. Hagrid's heartbroken. And crucially, Ron's rat, Scabbers, starts acting wild, biting Ron.
Yep. A tiny detail seems insignificant maybe, but it's a massive clue, foreshadowing the huge reveal that's literally moments away.
Then the execution party arrives. Dumbledore, Fudge, the executioner, they hear the unmistakable sound of an axe falling.
Horrifying. They think they've failed, that Buckbeak is dead, they hide, and suddenly this huge black dog bursts out, Sirius Black in his animagus form.
And he goes straight for Ron.
Drags Ron and Scabbers into the tunnel under the Whomping Willow towards the Shrieking Shack. Ron's leg gets badly injured in the process.
Inside the shack, Black transforms back into human form.
Ah!
Gaunt, terrifying. And Harry, just consumed by rage and grief, believing Black betrayed his parents, he actually tries to kill him.
The tension is immense. Harry facing the man he blames for everything.
And then, the biggest twist. Professor Lupin arrives. The whole dynamic shifts instantly. What happens? What's the earth-shattering revelation?
To Harry and Hermione's absolute disbelief, Lupin doesn't attack Black. He embraces him, like a brother.
Mind-blowing for them.
Hermione just screams that Lupin's been helping Black all along, and then blurts out his secret that he's a werewolf.
Wow.
Lupin calmly confirms he is a werewolf, but denies helping Black or wanting Harry dead, and then he drops the bombshell. Peter Pettigrew is alive.
No way.
Disguised as Scabbers the Rat. He was the secret keeper. He betrayed Harry's parents to Voldemort. Lupin, Black, James Potter, and Pettigrew, they were the Marauders, creators of the map.
It's just an incredible unraveling of history. The real villain hiding in plain sight for 12 years as a pet rat.
Unbelievable.
So Peter Pettigrew, thought dead for all this time, transforms back from Scabbers. What physical traits confirm it's really him, make it undeniable?
He appears as this short, kind of grubby man. Unkempt, thinning hair, big bald patch, looks shrunken, and crucially, he's missing his index finger.
The finger they found after the supposed explosion?
Exactly. A detail Ron even unknowingly confirmed earlier when Scabbers bit him, describing the rat as missing a toe. Black explains Pettigrew cut off his own finger before transforming, faked his death in that explosion, killed all those muggles, and framed Sirius perfectly, the ultimate act of cowardly betrayal and deception.
Just as they're absorbing all this, Snape bursts in, still furious, driven by that old grudge, ready to drag Black off to the Dementors. What happens to Snape?
In this critical moment, Harry, Ron, and Hermione all act together, simultaneously shout, "Expelliarmus!"
The disarming charm.
Knocks Snape clean off his feet, unconscious. It protects Black and Lupin, lets them try to get Pettigrew back to the castle. It's this amazing moment of collective defiance, asserting their own sense of justice over Snape's personal vendetta.
And amidst all that chaos, Black reveals something incredibly personal to Harry. A moment of real hope.
He does. Sirius tells Harry he's his godfather. And once his name is cleared, he offers Harry a home, a proper home, away from the Dursleys.
And Harry just...
ecstatic. Readily accepts. It's this huge moment of hope for him, the chance for the family he's always desperately wanted.
But the journey back to the castle doesn't go smoothly. Events take another tragic turn. What happens with Lupin? And what are the consequences for Pettigrew?
Disaster strikes again. Lupin transforms into a werewolf. The full moon is out, and he tragically forgot to take his wolfsbane potion that night.
Oh no.
In the chaos that follows, the struggle between werewolf Lupin and Sirius in his dog form trying to contam, Pettigrew seizes his chance. He grabs Lupin's dropped wand, stuns Ron, transforms back into a rat, and just vanishes, escapes.
Heartbreaking. The real culprit slips away again.
Just when they had him.
And the danger isn't over. The Dementors are still around, drawn by all the emotion, right?
Yeah.
What happens when they attack?
Yeah, loads of them descend on Harry, Hermione, and the unconscious Sirius. Harry tries desperately to cast a Patronus, but he's overwhelmed, reliving his mother's death again. Just as he's about to pass out, this incredibly powerful silver stag Patronus appears across the lake, drives all the Dementors away. And Harry briefly sees someone on the other side of the lake conjuring it, someone who looks strangely familiar. But then he faints, leaves this lingering mystery.
So, back in the hospital wing.
Yeah.
The situation looks absolutely dire. Harry and Hermione are being accused of being confounded, hexed by Black. Nobody believes them. But then Dumbledore arrives.
And Dumbledore, crucially, does believe them. And he reveals how they can fix everything. What's his ingenious, really game-changing plan?
This is where things get really wild.
Dumbledore, ever the master strategist, introduces the time turner. He gives it to Hermione. It's not just a plot device. It's like this whole philosophical question wrapped in magic.
Right, the implications are huge.
He tells them to go back 3 hours, to literally rewrite the immediate past, save Buckbeak and Sirius.
And they do it.
They successfully save Buckbeak just before the axe falls, fly him up to the tower window where Sirius is being held, and Sirius escapes on Buckbeak's back. They manage to get back to the hospital wing just moments before Dumbledore locks the door, pretending they were there the whole time. It's an incredible piece of narrative footwork.
It sets up that hilarious but also tense scene
Yeah.
where Fudge and Snape come back, furious that Black has somehow vanished. Dumbledore just calmly dismisses Snape's accusations against Harry and Hermione, clears their names, effectively.
It perfectly shows Dumbledore's trust in them, doesn't it? Contrasted with Fudge's politics and Snape's personal bias, Dumbledore just subtly controls the whole situation, ensures a kind of justice, even if it's totally unorthodox.
But there is fallout. What happens to Professor Lupin because of all this?
Yeah, sadly there is. Snape, furious about Black escaping and being humiliated, accidentally lets slip to the whole school that Lupin is a werewolf.
Pooh, Snape.
Lupin, fearing the inevitable backlash from parents, resigns, even though Dumbledore tries hard to persuade him to stay. Before he leaves, he gives Harry back the Marauder's map and the invisibility cloak, kind of passing on that legacy of secrets.
And that mysterious Patronus, the stag that saved Harry by the lake,
Yeah.
the one that looked familiar.
Dumbledore confirms it. It was Harry's own Patronus, a stag, just like his father's animagus form, Pong's.
Wow.
Dumbledore tells him something like, "In a way, you did see your father last night. You found him inside yourself." Implying this deep connection, Harry's own growing power, realizing the strength he needs is actually within him. It's a huge moment of self-discovery.
It really is. So looking back at this whole whirlwind, what does this deep dive really mean for the story and maybe for us, for you listening?
Well, I think this deep dive really shows how one single event or one person can be viewed so differently depending on perspective, and how the real truth can stay hidden for years and years. The identity of Scabbers, the whole complex history of the Marauders, Lupin's secret, the meaning behind Harry's Patronus, it all just highlights the incredible depth layered into the narrative. It really forces you, the reader or listener, to question assumptions, right? To seek out the full story, even when it seems totally impossible or unbelievable.
It's such a powerful lesson in discernment, isn't it? Like, don't always believe the first story you hear, no matter how convincing it sounds. The importance of critical thinking, especially now with so much information flying around, the layers of deception here, the weight of these old grudges, but also the strength of these unexpected friendships.
Yeah.
It all comes alive when you dig into the details like this. It really makes you wonder.
It does indeed. So maybe the question for you is, what other secrets might be hiding in plain sight, in stories you think you know inside out? How do we figure out the truth when there are so many layers of deception, both in stories and, well, in our own lives? What will you look for next time you encounter a story you think you already understand?